Talking with the experts.
The 1 hour content plan is something that talks about creating an intentional content plan, something that jives with your marketing goals, because people typically think of content as something that they have to do. And I think that's the message that we've been told. Content is great, content is good, it helps to build your audience and all of that. But we don't think about how that content can serve us and our business as well. And that's the way it should be. So the type of content pieces that you put out there matter because they help in attracting the right type of audience. And if you don't get them right, then the people that you're attracting might not want to go on and do business with you. So it's very important to have alignment with that content plan and your products and services and your offers. So that's the 1 hour content plan. I have a couple on Amazon. I mean, maybe the one that kind of got your attention, but I'm not an expert.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. And Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. I'm Rose Davidson, your host. I'm an online event manager and a podcast producer and trainer. And today my guest is Meera Kothand, and she's from Singapore. And we're going to be discussing 3 emails that you need to simply and successfully launch a digital product. Now, Meera is an email marketing strategist and 3 times Amazon best-selling author of the books The 1 Hour Content Plan, The Blog Startup, and But I'm Not an Expert. Oh, I should get those books. She is also the publisher of MeeraKothand.com, an award-winning site listed as the top 100 sites for solopreneurs in 2020, 2018, and 2017, and the popular Create Planners, using her unique profitable email system, which is trademarked, so you can't steal it. Welcome, Meera, and thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, of course. I'm really excited for our conversation today, Rose. Thanks for having me over.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Tell me a little bit about your actual zone of genius.
Sure. So I started my business back in 2016, and it was really I just started blogging, and I was in corporate. I was doing international relations and marketing, and I had a little bit of a health setback that I needed to get sorted out. So I was at home and trying to figure out how can I utilize my skills, what I learned in corporate, how can I actually continue to work in this field. And that was when I thought, maybe let's start a blog. And I kind of felt there was a little bit of a gap in the marketplace where there was a ton of information on email, specifically focused on huge companies, but there's nothing really for the one-man shop or the one-woman shop or really tiny businesses with less than 5 people, for instance, in a team. So that was the gap I felt that I could fill in with my content. And my audience really pretty much started to grow organically from there. And then that led into programs and books and my membership and so on. Yeah.
Wonderful. Because I know I don't like sending emails because I could never think of what to write. I mean, I know I've got lots of content and I think, well, now, are people interested? I've got this, will they read it? Will it just, they feel like it's clickbait or trying to get them into some course or other. So what strategy for someone like me who doesn't like to email can be used so that they encompass it in a better way?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not the only one who has these fears. A lot of people that I meet day to day, subscribers who write back to me, people in my audience, they have these fears as well. They have fears of sounding terribly, really boring the boots off their reader, or they feel that they're going to think, their readers are going to think they are really salesy and smarmy and stuff like that. So I think the main way to think about email is to think of it as a conversation. You're not there to just plug your product. You're not there to plug your course or anything of that sort. It's really just about conversing with them and educating and empowering them to make the decision on whether they want to do business with you in the first place. So when you think about it from that angle, and you don't think about it that, okay, I need to promote something. I need to have that conversation, then it shifts and reframes your entire content strategy. So one of the best things I always say someone should have is a nurture sequence or a welcome email series. So anytime someone joins your list, you want to take them through a dedicated, it's kind of like laying out the red carpet for them. You are taking them through a sequential series of emails that introduces them to your brand, to your perhaps your best content pieces. And yes, you can have a plug to your main goal or your main offer at the very end of it. But every single thing should be aligned. So why did someone get onto your email list? It could be from a lead magnet. It could be from a training they saw. It could be from a podcast they saw. But that lead magnet has to be aligned with the content that you are sending in the email sequence. So typically most people, even though they are a couple years in or a couple months into their business, the type of emails they're sending are very, very generic, very general in nature. So it's not focused on one main topic. But if you think about it, that person who subscribed onto your email list, they are signing up based on one main topic. And hopefully your lead magnet is specific, because those are the types of lead magnets that do very well. So specific in a sense that they solve one main pain point, or they speak to one main problem that you are helping your audience solve. So it could be trying to start a podcast, or it could be fears around showing up live on camera. So these are specific problems or pain points that your audience will have. So when someone signs up to that, the content that you want to be sending them in that email sequence should also be tied into that topic. And the offer that you are pitching them at the end of that sequence should be tied to that topic as well. Now, when you do it in that way, there is amazing alignment, and it's not going to seem like a plug. It's just going to seem like, hey, this is a conversation. And if you're ready for the next step, then I have this solution. So, I think we'll be talking about this as well, Rose. It's the type of emails that you send within that sequence. Now that makes a difference on whether you're going to come across as that snake oil salesperson or just a friend having coffee with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where it's really hard to differentiate, I guess, the difference if you're not comfortable with emails. People can write blogs and that, but I tend to think that emails are a little bit different than a blog. So, because I'm a really logical person, I'm not very, I don't write with a lot of emotion. I find it hard to get people to read the content because it's so factual, and I'm not hitting the pain points that they might be having at that particular moment with their business.
No, I hear you. I mean, I actually feel like I'm pretty much I kind of I understand what you're saying, in the sense that I am not someone who likes to talk a lot about my story, or kind of add in those funny gifs or stuff like that people usually nowadays kind of share in their emails. But the main thing with it doesn't have to be that way, and it's hard because those are the only type of emails we see, and those are the only types of emails we are getting. Those really flowery types, those kind of addressing you with babe or boss and stuff like that. And some of it, yeah, and I completely dislike those. They might jive with a lot of people, and that might be perfect for other businesses because it's a part of your brand voice. But if it's not yours, you should not be speaking that way at all. I mean, I absolutely don't. So I make sure that the voice that I'm speaking with is how I'm showing up. Like when I'm showing up on a training, that is exactly what I want someone to get when they get an email from me. Because imagine if someone sees you on a podcast or a training, they hear you sound one way, and the emails they get from you are a completely different style. That's where you're going to have a little bit of a disjoint, and they're going to be wondering, is this the same person that I heard? So you definitely want to sound like yourself. So you don't have to be kind of pulled into trying to follow what everyone else is doing. There is a way to do it in kind of like your own way. So for me, the type of content that I always like to think about is, what can I get my audience to, how can I give my audience kind of like those aha moments, or how can I get them to change their perspective? So that is my main thing, because if I've done that, then I have gained their interest, I've gained their attention. And when I'm able to kind of just a tiny frame, a shift in a perspective, or reframe their thoughts around a topic, then I'm going to be able to position myself as someone that they can trust. Because if you think about it, the biggest change typically, anything, if you think about a book that you, or a movie or a book that you just cannot forget, it's usually because it has kind of altered your perspective, or it made you rethink something that you've always believed in. So one of the emails that I love to include within any sequence, or even if I'm having a launch, that I love to include is the myth or mistake email. I like to call it the double M, because they have such a powerful impact on your audience. So when you are talking about myths that you want to break, so any type of false beliefs that people typically always believe in, it could vary niche to niche to niche, and every niche has some of these false beliefs. So when I was starting out, when it came to email, some of those false beliefs were, I need to have a list of at least 1,000 people before I email them, or you need to have a huge list, only then you're going to make money of it. So these were some of the false beliefs that people had. And if you think about it, in any niche, even in yours, Rose, there might be these kind of false beliefs around online events or around starting a podcast. So if you kind of point these out and you break these down, then you are bound to get emails, replies from your audience where they're like, hey, I didn't think of it this way, and thanks for sharing this, because I've always believed this is the only way to do it. So that is, if you take a look at any sequence that I have, I definitely have a myth email in there, because those are the ones that I get a huge amount of engagement from when it comes to my audience. Yeah.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. It really does. Yeah, so and so I guess from the myth email, I would suggest that would be sort of like maybe the first one in sequence after the welcome email. So what other steps could people, and how many in the sequence should there be? How many emails in the sequence should there be?
Yeah, so this is really a matter of it's really a matter of comfort. I like to do at least 5 to 7 emails within a nurture sequence. I like to send the first 3 back to back. So people always ask me, okay, how frequently should I be sending these? I'm a little bit more bold, a tiny bit more aggressive. So the first 3, I always send it back to back. And this is based on stats and research that shows that in the first 48 hours, people are the most engaged with your brand. So when you are going to be in their inbox, it's going to help them better with retaining your brand name. And they're going to be able to recall as well, oh, okay, yeah, I remember signing up for this. So imagine they get a welcome email, then you don't show up for another maybe 7 days, the next week, and you send another one. I mean, it's okay. You're still doing better than a ton of people who don't send anything at all, but it doesn't help with brand recall. So you want to really aim in on that 48 hours, 48, 36 hours in that specific time frame. So first 3, like you said, welcome. The myth email, I like to follow up with another one that speaks about mistakes. So focusing on the double M. So the mistakes email, pretty straightforward, where you are talking about mistakes. And I would focus on not the typical mistakes that everyone has already read about, things that perhaps speak to your framework, because you might have certain ways of doing something and where you are getting your clients the best results. So look at those and pick out mistakes that people typically don't realize it's a mistake, because there are a couple that are really common. So if you're talking about starting an online business, like maybe getting a good host, or these are very, very minor mistakes, and people would have read about them. So don't speak to those that are pretty unique to you and your framework and the way that you deliver results for your clients. When you do it in this way, the first 3 emails, so you've got your welcome, your myth, and your mistake, it's going to have a really solid foundation when it comes to brand retention, brand recall. And after that, you can kind of space it out. You can have, okay, you can send it maybe 3 days later, or the next one can go out a week later. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Because I don't like to be inundated. I so dislike that when I've signed up for something and like I get 6 emails in the same day from the one person, and it's really, really annoying, because you think, honestly, stop spamming me, because it's what it feels like. It feels like spam.
Yeah. I think it depends on, for me, I like to repel people in the first few days. So if they want to unsubscribe. Maybe they don't jive with what I'm saying, or I'm going to be completely myself. So if they don't really like my brand voice, then yeah, they're absolutely free to unsubscribe. So it's okay to repel people. And if you feel that, hey, this person is just really too much in my inbox, you could give them an option to, I think it really depends on your email service provider, where you can get, you can help, you can put in certain options in there where they can choose to receive lesser emails from you. You could do that, or they could outright kind of unsubscribe. So for me, I would suggest doing that. But I'm okay with people if people unsubscribe. I am not afraid of the unsubscribe, because I would rather pay for lesser number of people on my email list and have those people really want to hear from me, than have, someone who is 50-50. They don't really know whether they love to hear from me or not. Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't want people there that are just there and not engaged in what you're saying, and they're not actually learning anything. It just gets in their inbox. They read the outline and say, oh no, delete, and don't really unsubscribe. So they're just hanging around, and they're just lurkers, really. And so they're not really giving any value to anyone.
Exactly. And sometimes they don't open your emails, they don't click on anything, and it really skews your stats. You don't really know, hey, I mean, are people really engaged or not? Because they just end up sitting on your list. So I do also recommend doing a list clean every 3 to 6 months. Anyone who has not engaged with your emails, has not clicked on anything, do a list clean, send one last email, tell them if they still want to be in. If they don't, then go ahead and kind of remove those people. If your email service provider, the invoice that you get from them, that will definitely, you'll be thankful for that, because you're going to be paying a lot lesser, and it's going to keep your list really tight. So that's one of the things I suggest doing as well.
Yeah, I think you just want to keep your loyal readers, loyal clients, customers there, not the other ones that sign up for the freebie and then have no interest in anything else that you have. So yes, very much. Tell me about your 3 books, and can you just describe a little bit about what each is about?
Sure. So the 1 hour content plan is something that talks about creating an intentional content plan, something that jives with your marketing goals, because people typically think of content as something that they have to do. And I think that's the message that we've been told. Content is great, content is good, it helps to build your audience and all of that. But we don't think about how that content can serve us and our business as well. And that's the way it should be. So the type of content pieces that you put out there matter, because they help in attracting the right type of audience. And if you don't get them right, then the people that you're attracting might not want to go on and do business with you. So it's very important to have alignment with that content plan and your products and services and your offers. So that's the 1 hour content plan. I have a couple on Amazon. I mean, maybe the one that kind of got your attention, but I'm not an expert. It talks about tiny little things that you can do on your site to position yourself so that someone wants to do business with you, someone trusts you, because it's very hard when you're starting out and there's just so much noise out there to kind of stand out and be seen. So that book talks about strategies that people can kind of employ, starting very simply with maybe having a hero shot on your site. Specifically, if you want to do coaching, if you want to serve clients, it's very important that they see you. So have that hero shot and pitch, summits or podcasts or events, and then make sure you're visible. Your message is visible. So in a nutshell, this is what the 1 hour content plan but I'm not an expert talks about.
Perfect. I'm going to go on Amazon and go and buy them now. So tell me, have you got any other books in the pipeline at the moment? For me, I'm always publishing books. I have at least 2 come out a year. So there's one on email that I spoke about, that I launched as well, 300 email marketing tips. Probably next year I might focus a little bit more on the craft of writing copy, because that's a pain point that always comes up. Like, how do you write your emails, or how do you write your blog post or your website for that matter? And
they always say, no, I'm not a copywriter, and neither am I. I was never trained to be a copywriter. And this is a craft that I think you pick up over the years by practice, really deliberate practice. So probably the next book would be on that. And if anyone who is listening who perhaps wants to self-publish or perhaps wants to write a book, one thing I would always say is don't miss out on the email element of that touch point. So when someone buys your books, make sure there's a way for them to find you back and get back to your brand ecosystem. So anything that you're doing out there, anywhere where you're reaching out in the online space, it could be a event or summit or a podcast, make sure there's a way for someone to get back to your brand ecosystem. And that home base is your email list. So any of my books, there is a link for them to sign up, get back, and I make sure I have the dedicated nurture sequence that's going out. Same thing, if it's a summit I'm speaking on, if there's a link that I'm giving, I make sure there's a way for someone to get on. And then the topic that I'm speaking about is aligned with the email sequence as well. I think that is really key, and you don't want to miss out and have a kind of like a leaky funnel where people are just finding you and then just dropping off. So I think that's really important.
So I guess a lot of the tips that you've given are if you're doing it yourself. What about if you outsource your emails? I mean, how do you make sure that the person who is actually you're outsourcing to has the same voice as you and uses the same tone? I found that a little bit daunting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is kind of like that litmus test on whether you found the right person, because the right copywriter would be able to grasp your brand voice and would be able to deliver in a proper way. To find out if you have hired the right person or to know the type of questions that you're asking, I'm a huge believer that you should at least kind of get your toes wet a little bit, because you need to be able to understand what your brand voice is in the first place. And this comes through practice. It doesn't, and your brand voice evolves with time as well. I mean, the way I sound right now is not how I sound, 6 years back when I started out. So it's really a work in progress. It's evolution. And so you get your toes wet, get used to how you sound in emails, get used to the type of emails you write to send, or the type of content that you like to send. Then when you have a hold on that, it's easier to hire the right people, because you'll be able to know if, your thoughts are matched, if they would be able to grasp your voice as well. So some time back, I was looking for someone to write some copy from my site because I had a lot going on. I just didn't want to take that up. And there were a couple of people that I saw, and immediately, just from the way that they wrote their site, I knew that it would not be a match because of the brand voice. It just did not align. I'm more kind of grounded, and they were a little bit more chirpy and all of that. I'm like, no, that's not the way I want to come across. So it's things like this. If you know yourself, you understand your voice, it'll be easier to know who to get. And if the person you hired is not able to kind of understand and deliver on that, then I don't think that's the right person to have on your team. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I just want you to, and thank you for sharing that, because I think it's a lot of times people don't want to outsource their emails because they are too afraid to not find the right person. And I do know that some of my friends have found it challenging to find the right person.
Absolutely.
Because of the voice just isn't quite there. So so that's a really good, they're really good tips.
Actually, something that might help is to kind of have like a brand voice document in a sense. It's kind of like codifying your brand voice. So maybe certain words that you would absolutely not use, take note of that, or certain ways that you would express. Some people like to write certain words in caps or in italics. If there are a couple of words that describe how you want to show up, how your brand wants to show up, it'd be useful to have in a document. And if you have a team, or if you're outsourcing this to like a copywriter, it would be good to kind of give it to them. So it's like a document that kind of outlines your brand voice. It's a start compared to just completely starting on a blank slate.
Absolutely. That's a really good tip. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Meera, tell me, where can people find you, and where can they find all your books and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. So if email is on their radar, I do have a free email course that they can sign up. It's going to be dripped out by email. It's at meera.email/course. That's a short link. Otherwise, just on Amazon, if they Google my name, Meera Kothand, then all my books are going to show up. But the best place to start with is the free email course.
Beautiful. All right, Meera, thank you so much. Have you got any last words of wisdom for our listeners and viewers today?
Wow, I would say the main thing is don't be afraid of email. Just get started. You're not going to get it perfect from day one, but and don't wait for a certain number of people on your list or in your audience before you start email marketing. Have something that goes out from day one, because then you're going to be creating this amazing journey for them to go on with you and get to know your brand. I think this would be the biggest thing that I could say.
Lovely. That is perfect advice. Perfect advice. Thank you, Meera, so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rose.
Talking with the experts.